We're talking about the value of networks of people living with HIV and the importance of people living with HIV being involved in all areas of life that affect us. What difference does it make to have a network of people living with HIV?
I found networks to be very helpful because you, as a person being first newly diagnosed, you don't know where to go. You do feel alone.
I realized very early on that stigma is so pervasive that we can't combat it as individuals.
It really can feel overwhelming. You feel isolated. And, being able to reach out to a network for that support can make that difference.
When I wanted to really become involved and really make a difference and be a part of something, it was networks that I went to.
I tell people they saved my life. Like any ability I have to walk around in the world with my chin up is because those men taught me that I had value.
I met a network, I met a family, I learned everything I needed to learn about HIV and AIDS, and it actually empowered me to want to give back to my community.
Could we talk a little bit about why it matters that people living with HIV, that our networks are at decision-making tables?
Federally qualified health centers are required to have 50% of their boards of directors be patients. As more HIV services get bundled towards that healthcare delivery system, it's important that networks of people with HIV are part of supporting people with HIV to take a meaningful part of those boards.
And having that, everybody, a mix at the table is so important because everybody has a story to share.
Before it hits you at the clinic level, a decision has been made and it has been implemented. And by the time it hits you, it's too late to change it. But for a network to be effective and for a network to really do the work it needs to do, there is some amount of funding that is needed. Most networks operate on a shoestring budget. The members of the network volunteer to do different aspects of the work, but it could be done so much better.
In rural Iowa where I live, one, there's not supposed to be anybody who's positive, Iowans don't do that, it's not supposed to be in Iowa, so they're not funding us, they're not helping us. It's taken us twice as long to get done what we wanted to do.
In this country, we're so disenfranchised, and vulnerable as a population that, we won't have a voice. So without, adequate funding to support that, we would pretty much not exist.
So funding is clearly a barrier, but what other barriers are there for that networks of people living with HIV face?
You mentioned earlier that we're so loose, our networks are so loose that we need to tighten up, and that would be a great way.
And I think it's important for us to be connected because that's how we get a bigger voice. That's how we really can demand to be at those decision tables.
Can you imagine all of our voices together, how powerful we really are and we can be?
So I think this has been an incredibly valuable discussion, and I really appreciate the contributions from all of you and all of the different communities and experiences that you come from, that I come from, that we've been able to bring that together for this conversation. I think it's actually a model of what we're talking about the value of networks of people living with HIV.